Welcome back to The Chosen Life. I'm your host, The Chosen Lawyer, and our de facto co-host, he is back from Doug Laurie Sports, Mr. Wayne Frazer. Wayne, welcome back to The Chosen Life.
Good morning. Glad to be here again.
Well, you're never shy from opinions and from discussing all the latest, hottest topics out in the world of sports and surrounding life. So we got to jump in today immediately because you called this one, Wayne. You were saying in our last shoot that you had a little bit of a comment for the Starbucks baristas out there, and not everybody in the public was very happy with you. So I picked out two of my favorite comments to share with you here. So first of all, one person writes in from Instagram that there's no such thing as cheeseburger art, but latte art is a refined skill. There are global competitions for latte art. Shrug emoji. You just sound ignorant.
There are global competitions for kicking each other in the shins and slapping each other upside the head also. I wouldn't put a lot of artistic merit in those either. And as for somebody who says that there isn't cheeseburger art, you're not going to the right cheeseburger places, is all I can tell you. And let me clarify too. I'm not going to say that there isn't some form of latte art. It's just not happening at Starbucks.
What?
That's straight corporate, folks. I'm sorry. I appreciate that you take pride in your job. Although all I ever seem to see is Starbucks people on Instagram or TikTok crying about how hard their job is. But yeah, I will give you that there are probably some people out there who make a wonderful latte. But the artistic side of it is probably not happening in a corporate setting.
Well, I went to a couple Starbucks after we shot that episode and after I read the comments just to spend some time waiting in line, grabbing my coffee, seeing what's going on. I saw tongs being used to grab some muffins. I saw tongs being grabbed to grab the breakfast sandwiches, put it in the oven to cook it or preheat it or whatever you do with it. And watching all the coffees and the frappes and all that stuff, I saw a lot of pouring. I saw some more pouring, no stirring, and shuffled off. Got to put your own cover on. The end. Don't see the art. I didn't see anybody sitting and drawing flower designs or leaves or clovers or anything like that. Thinking back to my memory bank, Wayne, I had a couple of those, absolutely. But working at a Starbucks versus a McDonald's, etc. The thing is about the volume, and when you're in a busy, location, and you gotta take care of the drive-through, and you gotta take care of the people in line, you're just churning them out, man. And so I think that's what you're referring to there. And so I agree with you. Like, you can't even stir my drink properly, so I gotta go and stir it myself. I don't see the artistic form in that.
And I'm not going to say that maybe there isn't a little more care taken at a Starbucks than there is at a Tim Hortons. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But Starbucks for lattes is McDonald's for hamburgers. Sorry.
Not sorry. From Kid Weirdo 2 on YouTube, he wrote...
This is absolutely a reputable source then. We definitely want to listen to somebody named Kid Weirdo 2.
Well, he took the time to watch the clip on YouTube, and he wrote back, "You're good at crafting with a K. Exclamation mark, dip, ... It's
about what I would have expected.
Gotta love
if he means, and at first I guess I shouldn't assume their gender. If she or he or whatever says that I'm good at crafting dip, that's true. I make a very, very good low-fat crab rangoon dip, which is amazing, with cream cheese and fake crab and garlic salt and Worcestershire sauce and Triscuits. Do you know what crab rangoons are? Do people eat crab rangoons in Canada?
We eat poutine and chicken fingers.
So crab rangoons, being from the States, crab rangoon is like a wonton at a Chinese place, right? Folded up with this mixture on the inside and deep fried, and they're amazing. But if you don't have time to deep fry wontons, you make this dip and you Triscuits, and it's a pretty good approximation. If anybody wants the recipe, Kid Weirdo 2 or all the people at Starbucks who hate me, follow me for more recipes.
And we'll give the contact information. You can always head over to Doug Laurie Sports. and get the recipe, and maybe Wayne will be nice to make you some. So turning from friendly comments to the wide world of conspiracy theories. One has come up on my feed a couple times, and I thought about this, and this is referring to a past story that we had discussed before. Do you enjoy reading conspiracy theories, Wayne?
I don't know how you went into I don't know how you would define conspiracy theories, because I am a firm believer that a lot of the things in the last 3 years that we were told were conspiracy theories suddenly turn out later on to be somewhat accurate. But I do like watching videos about conspiracy theories. I enjoy. There's a new channel. I'll give a quick plug for this, called, I don't know how new it is, called the Y Files, which is a guy who goes on and talks about a particular conspiracy theory or something crazy about, like, the moon landing being faked or whatever, gives basically 15 minutes of the story and then comes back and basically debunks the whole thing. And it's really fun to watch, right? Because he sucks you in with the first part of it and you think, well, that doesn't seem wholly unreasonable. And then he comes back and goes, this is why it's all crap. So I appreciate that kind of stuff. But as for conspiracy theories, I don't know. Are we going to FTX?
We're going to FTX. We gotta go to FTX.
This is a great one. I happen to just see a woman, and I wish I had taken down her name. She had a video out about 3 or 4 weeks before all of this broke, saying that here's why I think that SBF and all of this is a scam. And she was dead on a month before everything broke, right? I'll have to see if I can find it and send it to you so you can put it in the links.
Okay, sounds good. And the one that I was referring to, and you may have others, is our good friend Tom Brady. You know, we've been in Tom's corner. We know his kids miss him, and he's going through his hardships this year, professionally and personally. It's been very painful, actually, to watch. He's literally aged 10 years overnight, seemingly. But one theory that I had read is like this, that the split with Tom Brady and Gisele, is that actually so? Because of the endorsement of Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, and the collapse over there in the endorsements and the lawsuit or lawsuits, that perhaps it was convenient for them to split with managing the assets part of it, and to appear that they're not together to help protect their assets, but they're really still together. What do you think of this one, Wayne?
I wouldn't say that that's implausible, especially given that I don't follow this too closely, because frankly, I don't really give a crap about Tom Brady's private life. But I do see that Gisele is still commenting on pictures he posts and things like that, and there doesn't seem to be any true animosity there. I'm not saying that people who get divorced have to hate each other or anything like that, but you know, does it make sense from tax purposes? I don't know. I'm not an accountant, but it certainly wouldn't be the first time something like that happened. And, you know, I don't know how heavily invested the two of them were. It sounds like it could be one of two things. Tom Brady is damn near broke because he put everything in there. Or it sounds like a lot of celebrities just got equity or got parts of the company. And so what they lost was basically just their time putting it into it. But I haven't seen any numbers thrown around. I'm sure that it's not going to look great when all these lawsuits hit, the class action suits against these celebrities for basically, why in the world would you listen to Tom Brady about where you invested your money? I don't know. Is Tom Brady the Tom Brady of financial wizardry also, or is he just a really good quarterback? You know, I don't understand when I see Stephen Curry or Stephen Curry or whatever. Why are people listening to these people about cryptocurrency? What the hell do they know?
And that's where, as a lawyer, I find that interesting, because, you know, the idea of athletes endorsing a product without doing their due diligence. And especially, you know, it's one thing saying, okay, I like a Starbucks coffee. I like, a protein supplement. I like this brand of bananas, whatever you're going to endorse. But even cologne, it's something in your genre, which you actually do use, something you can like, theoretically, a car you drive. But when it comes to investing, and without doing your own due diligence, maybe pouring in even some of your own money or a lot of your own money, this thing collapsing, and then a class action lawsuit saying, I invested because of what Tom Brady had to say. He endorsed this thing. He never did his due diligence, and he screwed me. So now, Tom, you're responsible for it. I don't see this happening from a liability standpoint, but man, this is very interesting to talk about, certainly.
Well, I don't. If we're going to give Tom Brady grief for talking about this, for endorsing this product as much as he did, that doesn't let you off the hook for being a moron also. Why are you listening to Tom Brady? You know, Tom Brady is not a financial guru. Tom Brady is a football player, right? So all these celebrity endorsements and all that sort of thing, I don't know. I don't know who listens to that stuff. Clearly, I'm, not a multimillionaire or anything like that. Although somebody said to me the other day, with all the stock that you have in the store, in the inventory you have, you probably are a millionaire. And I said, wow. And yet I'm digging around in the change cup for my $2 in the morning for my Tim Hortons or my coffee from Rod's in Alcona. That's where the best coffee is, by the way. But yeah, I mean, you're going to sue him for telling you to invest in this thing. Why were you listening to him in the first place? And I think that's the answer they're probably going to get. You'd know better than I would what the legal liabilities would be for that, but I don't know how you go to court and go, well, my God, I thought Tom Brady was a financial genius and he knew everything about crypto. What the hell would give you that idea? Why would you think that was? I don't even remember him ever saying that. Him just saying I was involved in this. Now, I guess maybe legally it makes a difference if he was being paid or given shares in the company. Then I guess he is responsible to a certain extent. But that theory about Gisele and Tom, I had not heard that, but now it makes me want to look into it more and kind of look back and see what other couples might have done the same thing, right? There's the one couple. My wife watches The Real Housewives every once in a while for a laugh. The one woman whose husband was giving her all sorts of money to become a pop star or something like that, and then now they're all broke and all the money went away, and she's saying I don't have to return any of it because it was a gift, and maybe they split up just for this reason. And I don't know, maybe it's the same thing. I'll ask my wife; she'll know more than me.
Okay, and report back if you find out for us. I will be not shocked in the next couple of years if we find out that they reconcile and get back together, because everybody loves Tom and Gisele together. Although there's sources saying that Pete Davidson is sniffing around now, but he's has his hands
full. What is the attraction of Pete Davidson? I keep hearing there's one big thing that's a big attraction for Pete Davidson, which we're not going to talk about.
People
he just looks like he would smell bad all the time.
Women can't resist funny Jewish guys. Apparently, that's a real attraction. That's what it is. And apparently, BDE is a thing. We will not spell that out, but apparently, Pete's doing okay in that department. So, Shohei Ohtani, Major League Baseball, MLB, Steph Curry also been named in the various lawsuits or this major lawsuit. And look, I've had enough people that understand in the world of finances. I mean, I have a business degree myself, but I always tell them one thing when it comes to cryptocurrency. Explain to me how this is not a Ponzi scheme. Like, that's all I'm asking of you. Like, just tell me, I know what a Ponzi scheme is. When you create something from nothing and people pour in money and then you raise the value of it, so more people pour in money and then you pay back the former people. The only way it works is as long as people don't pull out all their money at the same time, which is exactly what happened with FTX. But it's not based on anything besides air, as far as I know. There's this currency, you can't see it. It's called crypto. And here's the value of it. So I'll sell it to you for $10. Now you're going to pay 10,000. Now you're going to pay 100,000. Here's your 10,000 back. I don't see how this is not a Ponzi scheme. I'm not shocked whatsoever. And there's so much other things to invest your money in than air, as far as I'm concerned. But that's me.
I don't disagree with you. I would also, if we want to talk about conspiracy theories, I would say that the current method of funding dollars, whether it's Canadian or US or anything else like that, once you went off the gold standard and made it a fiat currency and it's not really based on anything, there is some underlying value to certain things, but it's basically just all sort of trust of the government to be able to do what they can do. And the fact that they just continually print the money now devalues what was supposed to be the underlying basis and backup. You can't just go to the bank anymore and go, well, I got $100. I want $100 worth of gold. No, sorry, we can't. We won't do that for you anymore. But no, I don't disagree with you. Again, I know that there seems to be this this thought being pushed that if you don't understand cryptocurrency, it's that you're not sophisticated enough to get it. You just need somebody else to handle it for you. Or maybe it's just bull crap and a Ponzi scheme. And the reason that I don't believe it is because I'm smart enough to look at it and go, this is a dumb idea. Eventually the rug's going to get pulled out from underneath. Hey, look, it's no different than the card market over the course of the last couple of years. And a lot of people don't want to hear this. But there are an awful lot of dudes walking around right now with graded Giannis cards or graded Mac Jones or whatever else that they paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for, that the rug has been pulled out and suddenly that card is not worth more than a couple $100. Okay? It was all hype. And you can look around YouTube if you go on YouTube and you can see the guys who were responsible for it. And they're all suddenly, amazingly, now they're getting money to go to card shows and buy things, but they're not putting their own money in. And I get phone calls 3 or 4 a week. I've got all this stuff I need to sell. And I'm like, buddy, I didn't sell that to you in the first place because I didn't get involved in that part of it. And I'm certainly not going to buy it back now. I mean, we just had the big card show in Toronto. And it was very successful. It was the biggest card show that I believe that they've ever had there in the 25 years of the show. But about 90% of it was people walking around trying to get some of their money back out of some of the big cards that they bought. Hockey has not been affected so much because it didn't have such a dramatic climb and because the market base is not so huge. But basketball and football especially. I mean, some of those cards are selling at 10 to 20% of what they were selling for a year ago, right? And it was all pump, pump, pump. This is never going to dry up. It's amazing. And all of a sudden it dried up and all the cockroaches went back under their fridges, right? So,
taking one look at SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, and if he showed up and I didn't know who he was or what he was, and I took one look at him and heard what he had to say, and I've seen interviews with him. If he tried to sell me $1,000 baseball card, I would go get the thing verified and make sure it's not fake. I can't imagine people pouring hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions and millions into an operation that this person ran. And when the stories came out of how he was running his operation with his companies and his staff, I'm not surprised. Like I'm just shocked he was able to build it to that kind of level, And I guess he's saying, look, I just need more investments. I'll get this thing right. Really? What? Somebody's going to pour billions of dollars back into this? I don't think so. I think he's done. And what they're saying is jail is probably going to be the solution for him at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, he maybe could get somebody to put billions of dollars back into it. If they can come up with another fake billions of dollars, then it's not real billions of dollars, and we'll shove it back over here and just move things around. Again, I wasn't super aware of this guy before all of this happened. This story did make me familiar with the word polycule, which I did not know what that meant beforehand. And now looking at Sam Bankman-Fried and his girlfriend, and now I wish I didn't know what the word polycule meant. But hey, I guess I don't know. I just, all of this goes back to the people who lost money in this. I think, okay, you're the smart guys. You're the guys who tell me you know about crypto and you just lost all your money. I'm not making a lot of money on my money that's in the bank, but it doesn't seem to be going away anywhere either. And yes, I know as there's inflation, I am losing spending power on the money. I get it. But I'm invested in baseball cards and gift certificates to Denny's, I guess. That's about what I have. So,
well, one guy I'm going to tell you that cannot bail out SBF is our good friend Kyrie Irving. So Kyrie, God bless him. He's trying to make amends. There's people are very torn on the pro Kyrie, anti Kyrie bandwagons as far as what he's tweeting and how responsible he is. I'll tell you something. As a Jewish person, and seeing, what he retweeted on and why he got suspended, the film that's being referred to is still posted on Amazon and you can still watch it. So explain to me who the real culprits are. So I actually agree with that, we're, as far as we should be going to the source, not just the messenger of it. But that being said, I think Kyrie just stepped over the lines a few one too many times, and they were just ready for him, and they're saying like, okay, enough is enough. And on top of that, he's done with Nike, so the shoe deal's done. But that was going to be done regardless. He's the one who came out and said on his last edition, "It is the crappiest shoe. I don't know who would buy this." I don't know, man, but if I have a deal with Nike, I'm not saying this kind of stuff. I can't believe how dumb they are. Like he thought he was invincible because everybody loves the Kyries. Well, no, you're done now. So no more shoe endorsement. He is back in playing in the NBA. So a rumor that I read, and this is the only one that I like. I had a couple of rumors now. One popped up on my feed yesterday that I dug through. So Kyrie's apparently heading to one of two places now. The one that I like the most is him still heading to the Lakers. LeBron saying, "This is such a shit show where I am right now. If you give us KD as well, I'll take Kyrie under my wing. No worries." So they won't take Kyrie without KD. That makes sense to me. You can take Unibrow. You can take Westbrook. Both of these guys are going to go. Bring in KD and Kyrie. That would be very interesting, I think, with LeBron on the Lakers. The other one is the Miami Heat saying he may be going over there. So what are your thoughts on this? Have you been following Kyrie closely? Do you think he's going to one of those places?
I think he has to go from where he is. I think there's no question that there has to be some move. And I think the Lakers makes the most sense. Um, I don't know about LeBron taking anybody under his wing. I don't necessarily, again. And as for Kyrie's tweets and all that kind of stuff, again, the guy's a basketball player, not a professor or anything like that. Just shut up. Shut up and play basketball. How difficult is that, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't have an opinion, but the world, we're not waiting with bated breath, or maybe I guess a lot of people are waiting with bated breath to see what Kyrie Irving has to say about certain things. And again, why? Why do you care what he has to think about these things? If you want to make a personal judgment as to whether you want to be a fan of Kyrie Irving based on his beliefs and thoughts and things like that, 100%, that's certainly your call to make, right? But there's no reason for you to know any of that, and there's no reason for Kyrie to tell us. Like, who cares, right? But I do think that it makes a lot of sense that he would end up with Los Angeles. My gosh, though, it just makes me happy to know that LeBron is suffering. I mean,
Why is that?
because I don't like him. I think he's a disingenuous creep, right? I just, this whole thing of kissing China's butt during all of this stuff with the NBA and backing them and telling more, basically when Maury came out and said maybe we should think about our relationship with the Chinese and pushing the NBA there, and LeBron was just smooch, 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 right? I just don't like the guy. And I feel it's duplicitous, right? Again, if you're going to dislike Kyrie for certain things, I'm going to dislike LeBron for certain things because I just feel like he's more about money than he is anything else. Not that I'm saying I'm a fan of Kyrie personally either, but
No, you're allowed. You're allowed.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. Sorry, just somebody walking by there that I had to wave at. I'm just not a fan of the guy, and it does not bother me in the least. Ever since the announcement, when he announced where he was going, that's just like, dude, could you be more self-important? Like, I know it's a manufactured thing and all that, but my God, have a little humility and just go, wait, you know what? We're not going to do this. I'm just not going to do this.
I think the fact if he was staying in his hometown, the announcement would have been a huge success. But doing this to your hometown and then them burning the jerseys in the streets, that was not the best move.
I love my hometown and I'm all about my hometown and blah, 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 blah. And let's make a big production so then I can crap all over my hometown in front of everybody. Yeah, that's pretty disingenuous, man.
What about the Miami Heat? They're kind of done with Lowry as far as his injuries and his age. So they're going to Brooklyn. They're saying, listen, how about Lowry? He's a good guy. Take him and give us another. and another piece, and we will take Irving off your hands. Do you like Kyrie on Miami, or do you think that's going to be an absolute shit show if that happens?
I don't necessarily know that adding Kyrie Irving doesn't turn any team into a bit of a show, just because you've got all the other stuff going on. And I look at franchises who want to bring him in. I understand he's a very talented player, but I look at other the franchises who are talking about bringing him in and thinking, what? Why are you doing? Why are you interested in doing this? I mean, do you really think that it's going to change just because he comes to your place? I look at the other franchises who are not saying, hey, we're in on the Kyrie show. And I think these are probably the franchises that have their crap together, right? As opposed to Miami and the Lakers, who are just running around grasping at straws. Oh my God, get us Kyrie. And if we put him with LeBron, things will be amazing. No, they won't. You might be a marginally better basketball team, but you still have not a whole lot, right? And then you're just going to have to deal with all the other crap. I don't know. Maybe that's what they want. If they're not going to be good, at least they'll be in the news all the time.
I was telling a story last night, Steve Carsey on The Chosen Journey, our docuseries in baseball, and he told the story of when he got traded for John Rocker. Okay, so he was having a great year with Cleveland, and that was the year he would have made the All-Star game, but they traded him midseason, and Rocker was imploding obviously in Atlanta. Cleveland says, you know what, we're going to take more. He comes with more years of control. Maybe we'll turn him around because, he used to be the best closer in baseball. So Rocker goes to Cleveland and Steve Carsey goes to the Braves. And Steve Carsey says when he comes to the Braves locker room for the first time, he enters in there and they all look around at him. He gets a standing ovation. And I think it was Maddox came up to him and said, you have no idea how happy we are to see you. We are so relieved. And so it makes me think, this is literally like a John Rocker type situation as far as just the volatility in the dressing room and everything else. And you know what? I can't even we talk about the Raptors quite a bit because the Raptors, us being based around the Toronto area and that being in the basketball team that's nearby here. I can't see Masai Ujiri taking Kyrie Irving for $1. Let's say they said for $1 because he doesn't want him in that locker room at all.
And that's how that's how you can have a pretty good feeling about the Raptors as a whole, as a franchise, when you pretty much know that your GM, if they called and said, look, we'll just give you Kyrie Irving for a second-round pick next year, the only reason that the Raptors would do that is that Ujiri would just flip him immediately somewhere else. He doesn't want him in the locker room. And I'll never understand. That's a great story about Carsey and Rocker. And I absolutely can. I have a bit of insight to the Braves locker room because I have a friend who knew Smoltz and a couple of other guys who played for the Braves at the time, right? I will never understand how people feel like, well, they're professionals. They don't have to get along in the locker room. Think about how miserable it made you when you were younger, let's say, and you worked in a McDonald's or you worked in a retail setting, and there was some jackass that you had to go in and deal with every day at work. And it just made things uncomfortable and upsetting. And now figure that these guys are together 24/7 pretty much for 8 months of the year, traveling around constantly. You can't get away from the guy. I mean, he's clearly nuts, partially nuts, or just so narcissistic that he can't see that the things he's doing are bad for the team. And so if you're able to move a guy, I mean, exactly, I feel like they would just be like, whatever we can get for Kyrie, just get him out of here, right? And same with Rocker and guys like that. Yeah. So I've never understood why people say, wow, they're professionals. They can get along just fine. I'm reading a book right now called The Gas House Gang about the Cardinals in the 30s. And the number of fist fights in the locker room between factions of the team, right? But they always talk about how eventually the team, the guys made up. It was not fist fights about, big life-changing things. It was just basically, you're getting on my nerves. And it was more likely that two dudes were just going to punch each other out in the 30s. I mean, you have to remember back in the 30s, there were times that people punched umps, and there were fights like that, especially in the minor leagues and things like that, right? These were rougher dudes. And yet they still all came together, figured out a way to make it work. I mean, there are very few teams out there. Maybe the Athletics in the 70s. They were very notoriously a bunch that did not like each other, but then they all came together because they all hated Charlie O'Finley, the owner, so much that no matter how much they disliked one another, they hated Charlie O'Finley more. And so they had some common thing to come around, right? I don't know how you ever get to a point where if you've got Kyrie in the locker room constantly talking crap and spouting this, that, and the other, how it ever goes away. You're never able to bury it and just tell him, just focus on the game, right? You got to clear him out.
My last question on this topic, because it came to me now, because I recall from my conversations with Dan Milstein, the hockey agent, and he when he got Evander Kane under his belt, and he got him that contract with Edmonton, and he was off to a great start until he got injured, unfortunately, freak accident. But Milstein didn't come to Evander Kane. Evander Kane came to him and said, "I know you're the guy, and you'll be able to get this squared away for me." And that was a pretty cool story when Milstein shared it on the air with us. But my question is like this: there are these agents out there, and the job of the agent is not just to get you that big contract, get you the endorsement. It's to take care. A real good agent takes care of everything. Like, I've seen ones where they help them relocate, find them the home, get their family squared away, get the listing of the schools. Situations come up with family if they have to bring somebody in or fly somebody out, whatever. And they're involved like in every aspect of it. If I was a agent to a sports player, like an athlete, I would be looking at their social media 24/7 or have somebody viewing this, and I'd be on top of this right away. Like a guy like Kyrie, I would get him a special phone. It would have the numbers to dial out phone calls, maybe text messages, but we would have it a setting so they cannot swear on there. And that's all he'd be allowed to do on his phone. I'm like, we're taking away all your social media. It's done. Somebody from the agency is going to be posting nice generic messages, motivational messages, whatever, but you're not doing this anymore. And when these athletes implode, I think that the first person they should be blaming is their agent. Like, why did you not? What am I paying you 10% of my income for? What the heck are you doing here?
Well, there was a fella, and I can't remember his name right now. He was on the 32 Thoughts podcast a few weeks ago with American Friedman. And it was a gentleman who is an agent, but he's basically developing an all-in, health and wellness, real estate, all that sort of thing, all of that stuff, all under one umbrella. So when they take a client on, that guy not only are they handling it, but they're taking care of all of that. Yeah. My question would be, what agent would take on Kyrie Irving and not think that this is what's going to happen, right? I mean, this skeleton guy was talking about the fact that they have meetings, and he turns down clients because he says, "I just think this is going to be such a headache for me trying to deal with this guy or the family or whatever else. I don't want to be a part of it. He's not part of our group, right?" So yeah, I agree with you that the agent is supposed to be supplying some of that stuff, but Kyrie's a grown man, right? At some point, you have to look at a grown man and go, you are responsible for yourself, and if you're not able to control yourself from doing stupid crap like this, then remove that out of the equation. I don't know. I mean, I guess the agent could go over and just smack the phone out of his hands, or they could have somebody follow him around like he's a toddler and put him on one of those leashes or whatever, right? But I mean, other than that, he's a grown man, for gosh sakes. Either you're eventually going to have some sense you're going to get some sense into your head, or you're not. But I'm surprised that his agent hasn't just, you know what, you're on your own. I don't know who his agent is. I don't know who he's with, but
I think very likely you're going to see a case where he's still going to have talent in the tank, and all of a sudden he's not going to get a contract and he'll be heading overseas. That's what tends to happen. Now, switching from the world of basketball, we're going to touch upon the world of football because I know you're very excited about the season, how that's going. And whenever I'm listening to sports radio and we bring up the NFL, there's three names that seem to be coming up time and time again. And at this point in the season, I'd love to hear your thoughts on each of them respectively. Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, Jimmy G. Let's start with Geno.
I think Geno is an absolutely perfect example of how many guys there are who either languish on NFL rosters or just simply don't make the team the first or second year who that if they eventually got the shot that they should have gotten a long time ago, and maybe they were ready, maybe they weren't, circumstances or whatever else, that not only is this guy a serviceable NFL player, he's a very good NFL player. Do I think that Geno Smith is, going to rip for 10 years from here? I don't know. I don't think so. But he was put into the perfect situation where he's got a pretty darn good receiving core. And surprisingly enough, you know how Seattle is with running backs. I mean, that's horrible. But he kind of makes a lot of the work himself. And you think, well, I thought they said that Russell Wilson was being held back by Pete Carroll all these years. No, maybe Russell Wilson just wasn't that good, right? Maybe it was Pete Carroll doing some amazing things, and maybe Geno Smith is even a better fit for that system than Russell. No, I don't want to slag on Russell Wilson. I actually really like Russell Wilson, and I think we'll switch to Russell here. I think Russell just got put into a really bad situation this year. They've had so many injuries with, every key part of the offense. He hasn't played very well, but when you take a guy and you take him from a system that's so based around him, and whether there were limitations on him or not, it worked just fine. And now you put him in this other system where it's pretty much all him. Not necessarily because of the system, but because of all the injuries and everything else, he's going to look bad. He's also maybe not just as good as everybody thought he was. So I don't know. As for Jimmy G, I've never doubted Garoppolo. I carried him forever in my fantasy league. I think he could still be an excellent quarterback for a number of years to come. Do I think he's a top tier quarterback? No, I don't think so. But I think he's in that kind of 8 to 15 range, where if you put him with a couple of good running backs and a reasonably good line, and again, the situation he's in is pretty darn good, right? They're a pretty good football team. I don't think he's going to win you a lot of games, but he's not a guy who's going to lose you a lot of games either.
Well, with Geno Smith, I think the Seahawks are at the position they don't miss Russell one bit at this point. I think that they're very happy with how things went around for them. And I think the Broncos, well, they obviously can't get rid of Wilson at this point, but it's not looking great. But you got to give more than 1 year, certainly. But I think the Jets, when they're looking back on it, saying maybe we should have given him a little more time. Maybe we should have given him a little more love, because they were pissing on him quite a bit. And watching the guy, I'm not surprised. But there's a lot of hype on him, which is really cool. And it's nice to see somebody that, like you said, they get that chance, because this may have been his last chance. He may never have gotten this opportunity ever again. And based on what he's doing now, he's bought himself at least another 2-3 years in the league, likely, at least as a backup if things fall over for him. The one I'm fascinated with is Jimmy Garoppolo, in that the whole offseason, they're apparently trying to move him. They'll eat salary, whatever it takes to get this man out of here, And then the guy that they thought was going to be their quarterback gets injured. And then they're like, oh, Jimmy, we love you again. Please go ahead. And what does he do? He just wins, and real professional guy. He was the understudy to Brady, right? And they always said if he got a chance. And so but I don't know what it is about him. He's very steady, but I guess because they're expecting him to be a number 1, number 2 overall quarterback in this league, and he's just not going to do it. I think that's his only curse. But otherwise, he just goes out there and he's steady for the most part.
Yeah, and that's a guy that I think that fits the 49ers, what they actually need. I think that they've been trying to turn themselves into a Lamar Jackson kind of, or a situation like that, a guy who's going to run more, but they don't need that. What they need to get themselves, and now that they have McCaffrey, they have it. They needed a guy that they can give 20 to 25 touches to consistently. They've got some really good wide receivers, and now you've got a guy who, no, he's not going to run for 50 to 100 yards a game, but he will put the ball on the receiver 90% of the time. That's all you need. And it's not too hard to just go, here you go, Mr. McCaffrey. Here you go, Mr. McCaffrey. Look, I just traded Saquon Barkley in my fantasy league, and that breaks my heart because I've had Saquon. I kept him all through the knee trouble and everything else. But I have no faith in the Giants. If you ask me right now, between Washington, Dallas, Philly, and New York, which all four of those teams are in the playoffs right now. I think the Giants are going to miss the playoffs. I think Washington might make it. Tyler Heineke has been amazing for them. Not amazing, but just a calming influence, right? Mm-hmm. There tends to be that sort of with quarterbacks, especially when they get the big contract. Okay, well, we're paying you a good chunk of change. Now you have to be better than Pat Mahomes. Well, you know who's better than Pat Mahomes? Nobody. That's why he's Pat Mahomes, right? Garoppolo is in that 5 to 10 to 12 range, but if you put good stuff around him, he's not going to cost you games. And I also want to mention how happy I am for Jacoby Brissett to have been able to get this year in, right? Brissett has played pretty darn well. Is he going to be a starter ever again? I don't think so, but I'm happy for him. I'm happy he got that year in, right? Because he's another guy that, unless you get moved from the Patriots right away, you're never going to develop into anything because you were never going to play, right? So I'm happy for him to get that year in too.
A last name that kind of comes to my mind because they've been mentioning him this weekend for obvious reasons, Deshaun Watson. Any final thoughts on Deshaun?
I don't know why you would go sign that guy. I mean, I do. I do know why you would go sign that guy, but that's a Kyrie Irving kind of thing, right? What does it say about your franchise if, here.
You think there's any chance this is going to go well? You think there's any chance it's going to go well for that contract?
In the short term, yeah, I think it's possible in the short term. Mm-hmm. I mean, Deshaun Watson is a heck of an athlete and a good quarterback. I don't hate the way he plays the game or anything like that, but I mean, I don't know how old he is now. He's been around for a good chunk of change, right? I just don't think that Cleveland has enough. I don't think there's enough there either, right? To really, were you that close that Deshaun Watson was going to put you over the top and make you amazing? I don't see it. And I just don't look at that. Yeah. I don't know how long that contract is, but I think after a year or two, it's certainly not going to look good. And I don't know. I don't see them doing a whole hell of a lot with them.
It's like in the era of the internet, social media, you do enough due diligence. Like, this is an organization that still went ahead and drafted Johnny Manziel. Like, that's all you got to say. Like, you just knew this was not going to end well, which it didn't, obviously. And you watch all the documentaries, you read the stories, like, they knew what they were getting. They went in with eyes wide open. So this is a similar situation as far as you're going with eyes wide open. You know what you're getting. You're thinking, okay, maybe he's changed. But when you have that air and that cloud around you hovering, it's never good. That's just how my take.
And when you have the backfield that they do, why are you throwing the ball at all? Why do you need? I mean, you have 3 legitimate NFL starting running backs in that backfield, including one of probably the top 3 in the league. Just give them the stupid ball and maybe throw it 20 times. That's why I think Brissett actually, if you were to keep going with Brissett for a while, I think they could be a playoff team. Are they going to win a Super Bowl with him? I don't know. Can you win a Super Bowl running the ball 40 times a game? I was just going to say, I traded Barkley in my league and I got back Trevor Lawrence. Shut up. I need a backup for 1 game for Pat Mahomes for the rest of the season, right? I got Darnell Mooney because I like him a lot. I don't care about this year. And I got Pacheco from the Chiefs. And I'm very excited about Pacheco because I think maybe finally Andy Reid has realized if you just pick a guy and you give him the ball 20 times a game, he might do okay. And then I wake up this morning at the trade deadline, and what do? They sign Melvin Gordon. I know that Edwards Hilaire is out, but like, my God, just pick a dude. It could be McKinnon, it could be anybody. Just, I guess it's about making your running backs last. But at the same time, the NFL seems to have come to the realization that you could basically draft anybody and make them a running back for a couple of years, and they'll likely be pretty good. I mean, look at the number of guys who are undrafted, or Pacheco is a 7th rounder out of Rutgers. Look at all, we were talking about this with Geno Smith, right? There are players everywhere. available out there, right? So in my mind, why would you not just run Pacheco's legs off for 3 years while he's cheap and then just go find another dude? But
Well,
instead, it's, you know what? Well, we're going to 15, we'll give him 15 carries and then he'll get 3 next week and 8. Everybody does that except for a couple of teams. Just pick a guy and run the ball. Not that hard.
Wait till the opportunities come up with the XFL come back into the system. But we won't go there right now, but we will go there
St. Louis
one day.
Battlehawks, baby. St. Louis Battlehawks.
And we're going to sum up today's episode going to the world of hockey because it is snowy in our parts and the hockey season is well underway. And my first thought in the NHL is we're watching something really special in Edmonton right now. And I feel like I'm watching the second coming, if not greater, of Crosby Malkin in what's going on in Edmonton with McDavid and Draisaitl. And like, why are they not getting their dues enough? I know that McDavid, I think, is the greatest player right now going. He's gonna, if he keeps on his pace, he'll be one of the best ever. Draisaitl is nobody to sneeze at. Like, why are we not talking more about these guys? And they're surefire Hall of Famers in my book at this point in their careers. They still have so much more to go, but why are these guys not getting enough of their dues?
I think a lot of it has to do with Connor McDavid fatigue. I think that Connor McDavid, we don't maybe talk about them as historically great players, but we do hear about McDavid all the time, right? But we don't hear about the Edmonton Oilers all the time. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the same reason that you don't hear a lot about the Calgary Flames or somebody playing really well for San Jose, like Erik Karlsson tearing it up out there. Because West Coast teams, you just don't see them play all that much. You don't see Edmonton play in your time zone if you're out here all that much, right? So I think there's just some sort of natural time bias there in the amount of highlights that you can get in. The other thing, too, is that I think that McDavid casts such a big shadow that people look at Draisaitl and they think, well, could he do this on his own? Could he go somewhere else and do this? I don't know. There was a discussion the other day on the 32 Thoughts podcast about Crosby and Malkin and whether there had ever been a point where Malkin thought about going out on his own. And Elliot Fried said that, yes, there was a point that he thought about that, but that he eventually realized how good he had it. That Crosby took all the spotlight, and he was the guy who talked to the media all the time, and he got the accolades, but he took the heat too when things weren't great, right? I don't know that Draisaitl, he doesn't seem to me like, again, he strikes me as more of a Malkin type, right? Where I'm not saying that McDavid's super flashy or wants to be out in front of the media all the time, but he does make himself available. He's doing those stupid commercials for the betting thing now, which really drives me nuts. I'm not comfortable with that at all, to be honest with you. But he's willing to do that sort of thing. And I don't know that Draisaitl is that guy, right? So it's a perfect fit. I'm like we talked about their goaltending situation a while back. I'm very happy for Skinner. I think if this team really comes together and Skinner solidifies them in goal, I think they're the Stanley Cup champions this year.
Well, Campbell's been doing a heck of a lot of nothing since our last taping. I think he needs a mysterious injury and go on long-term IR, collect some insurance money, and then go sign another player because he ain't looking good. And I don't know if he's going to rebound anytime soon. I think that pressure of that contract is not helping him whatsoever. He's in a hockey crazy market, a lot of expectations with the players that he's playing behind there. I just don't see it going very well right now for him. I think he's got to go do some meditation, get a sports psychologist going, and maybe the guy who worked with Rinkan Keel and just find a way because I think it's all up here versus physically for him.
Yeah, I think that is the way it goes for goalies, right? I don't think somebody drops off that dramatically, but I also think we have to realize he really wasn't that great for the Leafs. He was not a fantastic goalie. The Leafs have not had good goaltending for a while. I mean, Anderson was good. Not a guy who was going to steal games for you, but good, right? But Campbell was not a top tier goalie with the Leafs, right? He won a lot of games because they scored a lot of goals, right? When you put him in that situation, it's just now he's even worse. And even though they're scoring a lot of goals, if you give up 5, it's going to be pretty tough, right? Do I think there's a possibility that maybe they could move that contract to somebody else? I think it's possible. I think if they gave up an asset to Arizona or somebody like that, somebody with a low floor, right, that they might be able to move that contract. But I think you're right. I think it's the best thing that could happen for Campbell is almost, I don't want to say fake an injury because
we can't go
whatever.
there.
But I think it's almost the best thing that could happen is that he could go just sit for a couple of months, then go to the AHL for a conditioning stint and just kind of get his groove back, right? Because I don't know how he's going to do it right now. And I don't know if you're the Oilers, how the hell do you put him in net?
And McDavid, he just doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to be a malcontent. He's not going to come in and demand a trade. You know what? I need to win my ring because he knows how hard it is to win a ring. And I think he's very comfortable being the face of the franchise, doing what he's doing. And I think if he never wins a ring and he's still on that team, I think he's going to play 20 years there and be very happy. I don't see him bouncing from there at all.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I think there is a draw for any guy like that. I think if you get to the point in your career, he's what, 6-7 years in now. You get to the point in your career, say another 5 or 6 years from now, and you've not even gotten to a final with Edmonton, then I think maybe at that point you look at it and go, hey, you know what, guys, I would like to have a chance to win here. And if you're bottoming out, maybe he goes somewhere else. But yeah, I think you're right. I think he likes Edmonton. I think he feels a certain responsibility as the guy, anybody would have drafted him number one if they had the chance. But I think he's the kind of guy who would feel some loyalty to the Oilers. And I think, yeah, he could be out there throwing a fit right now. He could have over the last couple of years. And I think privately he has probably expressed to the Oilers here, hey, you know what? Here's kind of what I think we need. But I think he's a classy enough guy that he's not going to drag that out into the public. If they can go out and find somebody, another guy to put with Skinner, and they get maybe one more defenseman, they're going to be awful tough to beat. I know Colorado's good, but my gosh, I don't know how you shut those guys down. I just don't see it, right?
Well, two teams that I find very, very interesting in this season because they came in my mind, with no expectations, especially given the uncertainty around goaltending, and it's the Las Vegas Golden Knights, New Jersey Devils. Is it smoke and mirrors, or are they just this good? What's your thoughts on them?
I think in the case of Las Vegas, that may not last. They are a good team, but I think, yeah, you're right, especially with questions for goaltending. Now, Thompson's been great. But again, how much can you put on young goaltenders and think that it's going to stand up, right? I feel differently with New Jersey. And it's not necessarily even goaltending there. I just feel like that whole team in the last year, maybe over the last 30 or 40 games last season, you could just see that they were coalescing, right? And now they have a ton of talent. I mean, people don't realize how good the roster is for the Devils. And then they're like, oh my God, they won all those games in a row. Well, look at that roster from top to bottom. That roster, I mean, people thought Nico Hischier was a bust. Nico Hischier is fantastic. He's a really, really good player, And then you put all these other guys with that, and the fact that they've all kind of come up and gone through the crap of being horrible together, and now they've all kind of figured out what their roles are. Do I think they're going to win the Stanley Cup this year? No. Do I think that they have a really good chance to maybe go a couple of rounds deep and set themselves up for next season? Maybe go out and pick up one or two more pieces and then really kind of take over. Yeah, I do. I really do. I don't think they're that far away.
And wrapping up today, in your mind, in the NHL season so far, overall, whether it's a player, team, anything, what's been your surprises and your disappointments so far?
I'm obviously disappointed in St. Louis because that's my team, but there's something wrong there. I don't know. It's hard for me to say, having some understanding of the Blues operation over the past however many years. They've always been a really well-run organization. And I don't know if it's Tarasenko. I don't know what it is that's just I mean, I know that they're aging and everything else, but that team is just something is really off. And I don't know what it is behind the scenes. And I don't know how they fix it unless you tear it down to the baseboards and maybe go from there.
Is Mike
Uh,
Keenan available? Maybe he can come and fix
hey,
that.
hey, bring in Torts. That's as close as you can get now, baby. Or maybe Daryl Sutter if you can pry him away, but
Well, I think Babcock's available as well.
neat. Um, although I would take Babcock over Sheldon Keefe. I'm not a Sheldon Keefe guy, sorry. But yeah, that's one of the
Sorry,
other things.
Sheldon.
One of the other things that I would say that I'm a little surprised about is the Leafs are now what 13-5-5, 14-5, somewhere in there.
Doing pretty
That
well.
ballpark. They're playing pretty darn well, right?
4 road wins in a row.
I don't. This team still isn't fixed, right? This team still is going to go to the first round and have exactly the same problems that they've had in the past, and it's not goaltending.
Wayne, what are you supposed to do when all your defensemen are out? Like literally, what are you supposed to do?
I'm not concerned so much about the defensemen in terms of the injuries and stuff. I'm concerned about toughness, and they don't have any. And that incident a couple 3 weeks ago where there was the little scuffle and somebody else had to jump in because Matthews wouldn't fight and he stood there with that stupid grin on his face.
I was at that game, by the way.
Yeah. I would have liked somebody on the Leafs to have punched Matthews at that point. Stop smiling about it. It's not funny. Go defend yourself. You're a big boy, right? I know that's not what you're paid to do, but at some point, somebody's going to have to step up and do that. They don't have that guy right now, right? You know, I know that there was some discussion. I like the Connor Timmins trade because I don't think you gave up much, but immediately I saw people, well, the guy they gave up was huge. He was a butt kicker. And I'm like, okay, were they going to play him? Because apparently, no, they weren't going to play him.
Right.
You know, when Ryan Reeves got traded for a 5th rounder, I kind of thought, could you not have given up a 5th rounder to bring? I mean, I'm not a huge Ryan Reeves fan necessarily, but you just don't have that guy. You don't have that guy. And we've seemed to have that guy over the past 15 years. And every time we have him, we have Leo Komarov. Oh, I love Leo Komarov. He goes in and does the dirty stuff. Now he doesn't score enough goals and he skates too slow. Get rid of him. Then they bring in Matt. We need a tough guy. They bring in Matt Martin. Yeah, Matt Martin's great. He doesn't score enough and he skates too slow. We got to get rid of him.
By the way, the Islanders are very happy with Matt Martin.
We need a tough guy. Well, we've got Nazem Kadri. Yeah, but he gets in trouble in the playoffs and he's never going to win a cup. He's never going to lead us anywhere. We better get rid of him. Oh, man, I wish we had Nazem Kadri back. Look, just pick again, like we were talking about running backs, just pick the guy, go get that guy. You know, oh my God. Lord, forgive me for saying go get a Brad Marchand type, but go get that guy. You had him in Kadri. Yeah, was he unreliable sometimes? But that's how that stuff works. It's hard to find a guy who's going to be Sean Avery and John Tavares at the same time, right? He's not going to be unstable and stable at the same time. That's not how physics works. It's not how chemistry works, and it's not how people work. So you gotta find that guy that's going to go in and rough things up a little bit, and and then play him. Make him the deterrent on the bench, so that stuff doesn't happen to your guys.
Wayne, final prediction, because the Blackhawks are slowly falling down into the toilet. It's swirling around. I can see it there in the toilet. Patrick Kane is going to jump out. He's going to leave the Titanic. Where's he headed this year? Where do you see it, final destination for him this year?
I would not be shocked to see him end up with one of the New York teams.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to Buffalo. I don't think he wants to go into that situation in Buffalo where it's a lot of young guys again and it's unsettled. But I could see him with the Rangers or the Islanders. I could also see somebody out on the West Coast. Maybe I think Kane might be interested in a move out that way. Mm-hmm. But Seattle is 5th or 6th overall in the league right now. How would that look if they made a run for a guy like that this early in the since they came into the league, and all of a sudden you actually have a legitimate shot at making a run in the playoffs, right? I don't think anybody expected that this year. But that team, boy, did they do a good job. Especially, everybody talks about what an amazing job the Vegas Knights did in their first season. Well, cripes, they were handed everything, right? Not only did they get a bunch of good players, but then they got all kinds of picks and stuff like that they could go out and acquire guys. Seattle, they tightened the hatches down for that, and they still did an amazing job putting that team together.
And
That team
and who's running Seattle?
Ron Francis.
Not a dumb guy.
No, not at all. A very smart player, right? But you looked that when they did the draft or they did the announcement of the expansion draft, and you thought, man, this team doesn't have half the talent that Vegas did coming out of the gate. And yet here they are, and they're a damn good team already. They've done a very good job. And look at their, like, down the middle, they're set for 15 years if they can keep those guys around, right? They've drafted extremely well to go along with the core that they built.
Well, Zachary Rain on a couple episodes talked about that he's foreseeing the Leafs picking up Patrick Kane. I don't think with the cap, I don't think there's any way we're able to do that. But the team that I found interesting, I read a couple rumors on this one, Boston Bruins lurking. Can you imagine him on the Bruins? Oh boy. That would not be.
It depends on where Boston is when we get to the deadline.
And how many guys end up on long-term injury reserve right before the playoffs? That's
right,
the only way to get around the cap is get all your guys on long-term reserve. And then as soon as the playoffs start, they're all healthy again.
Amazing. Isn't that amazing? It's called the Tampa Bay plan. Yeah.
Can't see any way around that otherwise. Wayne, this has been amazing. The time goes by so quickly, and appreciate, sharing your thoughts with life and sports and everything. How is life at Doug Laurie Sports? You're talking about a little bit as far as the card market going, and we are gearing up for the Christmas season. People are looking for stocking stuffers. What's been the hot selling from sports merchandise, memorabilia, and what are people looking for?
It's a weird year for merchandise because with the past couple of years, a lot of retail stores being closed, there's a lot of merchandise that a lot of companies went out of business. And there are a lot of merchandise that just wasn't produced as people didn't know what was going forward. So we're still selling a lot of cards. We just had a card show here this weekend, had an amazing turnout for that. Saturday was just absolutely crazy. And you'll appreciate this. This made me very happy. I just picked these up. That's 53 tops.
Wow.
Lonnie Irvin, Pee Wee Reese, and Yogi Berra.
Look at Yogi. Wow.
Yeah. This is my favorite baseball set of all time. I love that set, right? But there was a lot of activity here. Like I said, the card show was absolutely crazy. I should send you a picture. I took my picture with a bunch of the guys from Slapshot while I was there. Had a nice chat with all of those guys. But we're picking up, we get a lot of people now coming in for frames. We have probably 300 framed autograph pieces on hand. The auction, one of our auctions just ended last night. That was really strong. And we're starting to move into bigger auction items. So I have some pretty crazy stuff coming up in Doug Laurie auctions. People can go check that out, right, too.
Amazing. So Doug Laurie Sports, Doug Laurie Auctions, lots of sports merchandise, memorabilia, and a lot of good stocking stuffers for that sports fanatic in your household. Wayne?
I have to ask you.
Yes, sir.
As Christmas time comes on and the holiday season comes on, Hanukkah and all that stuff, what is your life like in that month leading up? Does it slow down for you because there's a lot of off time, in terms of court filings and all that sort of thing? Or is it just as busy normally?
So I'm a real estate corporate lawyer, so I don't go to court, don't sue anybody. And what I find is there's a lot of people, it's a weird time because people sign their house deals. They want to close before Christmas and before New Year's. So they want to get all those closings done, before then. There's just a lot of people like to get year-end stuff done. A lot of from the corporate standpoint, incorporations, filings, things like that. People need to settle out their money issues. So they come to the lawyer to do all the real estate corporate stuff as far as changing title, refinancing. Everybody wants to get everything done before year end. That's the way it is. So I always find every year there's a mad rush between the first week and the third week of December, quite a bit. with the way, they're talking right now about interest rates and where things are going and people speculating, all I can say is this much: people are still buying homes, they're still buying new construction. It has not died off. So some people have to downsize, some people still want to upsize, people want to buy investment properties. The economy is still going, which is good news for everybody, because a lot of the indications are on the real estate market. If people stop buying real estate, they're stopping to buy everything. So even with what's going on, inflation, interest rates, I'm happy to report that the economy is still going and it's going strong. And I'm starting to get deals in for January, February closings already for real estate. So these are good indications to me.
All right.
Don't believe everything you hear in the media always. They like to sell doom and gloom, is the best I can tell you on that.
All right.
We'll see you back very soon on The Chosen Life. And as we sign off, we always do our flex. And we say, there it is. Keep living a chosen life.
See you soon.
Thanks, Wayne.